Namaste viewers, I am Rekha Rao from India, a researcher in ancient history and archaeology. Welcome to the course on the fundamentals of Indian temple architecture. This is topic 6 of an 8-part series. In this topic, we will explore how social themes are depicted in Indian temple sculptures. We will focus on the life and hobbies of royalty. Many temples in India have beautiful female figures adorned with jewelry. They stand in graceful postures and depict varied activities such as hunting, dancing, singing, playing many types of instruments, and also decorating themselves with jewelry. Research on such figures have revealed that they are the depictions of social activities of royal women and not depictions of religious themes. The purpose of such depiction was to convey the grooming of royal women to the general public. These sculptures were also a means of documenting and communicating the classical and folk art forms of the region from that time period. Firstly, we will explore how the queens decorated themselves to attract the king. We will then look at 4 examples of social activities such as how the royal couple enjoyed their private time in palace gardens, archery and hunting games, celebration of festivals, and cultural events like dance and music. The literary evidence for this topic on how the queens and kings lived their lives in the past is from the 12th century Sanskrit compilation called Manasollasa. It's an excellent source of information to study the social life and hobbies of queens of royal families of Chalukya and Hoysala dynasties. Let's begin with how the queens adorned themselves to attract the king. Slide 1 is an example of the sculptures from the Belur temple of South India, built during 12th century CE. In the first picture, we see a queen displaying her naturally beautiful long hair, which is enclosed in a net and is adorned with pearly decoration at the bottom. Her attendants are holding a garland of perfumed flowers. The queen is trying to draw the attention of the king by making pleasant sound of her anklets on her foot and gazing at him with the wide opened eyes. In the second picture, the queen is fixing the stud of an ear ornament. She has sported a hairstyle of tying the hair into a huge bun and fixing flowers on it. In slide 2, we study 2 additional examples of how queens are decorating themselves with jewelry. The king is compared to the god of love called Manmatha. He would present himself with the best garments and ornaments and would take rounds in his city mounted on a decorated elephant or a horse. The pictures depict how the queens were anxious to look their best and are admiring themselves in a mirror. The attendants depicted at the bottom are small figurines are helping the queen by offering more jewelry. Such figures depicting adornment can be seen in many temples of India. Let's now study social activities. The first social activity we will study is how royal couple entertained themselves in a forest. Slide 3 provides 5 examples of how the royal couple enjoying themselves in a forest is depicted as temple sculptures. All 5 sculptures are from the Aihole temple, which is a World Heritage Site in South India. In all 5 figures, the king and the select women of the harem would then proceed to a private garden that had fruit and flowering trees to enjoy the love game in the forest called Vanakride. The king would enter the garden alone and enjoy his private time with beautiful women dressed well. They played entertaining games like hide and seek. The king also enjoyed the intimacy of his preferred queen in the garden. All pictures of slide 3 depict the pleasant expression on the king's face and the shyness of the queen. In the last picture, the king is seen gifting the queen with a bangle. The purpose of such depictions were to enlighten the public about the private life of royal people. These beautiful figures added a sense of aesthetic value to temples that went beyond the depiction of religion and gods. Let's study the next social activity, which is archery. Archery is called Dhanurvidya in Sanskrit. Women of royal families were trained to use bow and arrow, and they often accompanied the king in the game of archery. A royal woman shooting arrows was a favorite theme of temple sculptors. Let's now see slide 4. Slide 4 provides an example of archery-related activity called Dipamriga, which is depicted by the highlighted part of the left picture. The zoomed picture shows the assistant of the queen supplying more arrows and holding the female deer in a leash. The female deer is called Dipamriga, which is used in a hunting game. In the Dipamriga game, the trained female deer was made into a bait and released to mix with wild ones. After some time, the queen would give a signal call to the Dipamriga. The trained deer, on hearing the call, would run to the master. The young deer was followed by a wild pack of deer, which were then hunted. Slide 5 provides another example of an archery-related activity that takes place near a water source like a riverbed or a pond. This hunting activity is called Panlyaja. The queen is with 2 assistants. The highlighted part of the left picture is presented as zoomed picture in the middle and to the right of the slide 5. The middle picture depicts an attendant carrying a deer and a water bird that were hunted. The legs of the animal and the water bird were tied and hung on either side of a bow that is carried by the hunter. Grains were spread near the water body to attract animals and birds, which were then hunted and transported immediately. Hunting was a strenuous game, and women often got hurt in their feet. The hunting partner often gave first aid, which is illustrated in the picture on the right side. Let's now see slide 6. We will now study the third type of social activity called Sechanakride, also known as Holi, which was the game of colored and perfumed water played in summertime. Slide 6 illustrates the queen holding the water syringe, which is depicted in Belur Temple of South India. In the picture, a man fills the syringe with colored water from a big container. Another man is throwing a pot of water at the lady. The king invited people from all walks of life to participate in the game of colors to increase the bondage with the royal couple. This game was also celebrated after the victory in a war. Let's now study some examples of cultural activities depicted in Indian temples. Slide 7 illustrates 3 figures from the Belur temple in South India. The first picture depicts a dancing posture of a queen. A set of orchestra musicians are also depicted at the lower part of the pictures. The second picture illustrates a queen playing a percussion instrument. The third picture shows the queen playing on a stringed instrument. Such sculptures depicting instruments were a means of documenting and communicating the different types of instruments that were in vogue during medieval period. Let's now see how the queen supported group cultural activities, which are depicted in slide 8. The first picture illustrates a folk dance performed by a group of women using sticks. The second picture illustrates acrobatics performed during royal ceremonies. The third picture illustrates a group of men and women and children taking part in a cultural event with many varieties of instruments. This was a means of documenting the cultural heritage and the folk art forms of that region. Let's now summarize the key learnings from this topic. The temple sculptures depicting a variety of social and cultural activities were not depictions of religious themes. Instead, they depicted social activities of royal women. The purpose of such depiction was to convey the grooming of elite royal women and how they were different from general public. These sculptures were a means of documenting and communicating the classical and the folk art forms of the region from that time period. The glory of queens, their refinement in personality, their love for adventure, and the fine arts are all beautifully projected in the sculptures of temples. Thank you. I look forward to seeing you in the next topic of this 8-part series.